I want you to picture something. You're sitting outside a little cafe, warm weather, clean streets, a glass of wine that costs less than $2, rent is paid, healthcare is covered, and you still have money left at the end of the month. That life exists right now. Real Americans living it on nothing but a social security check, but for every person living that dream, there are 5 others who tried the exact same thing and came home completely broke. Not because Europe didn't work, because they picked the wrong place inside Europe. Barcelona, Rome, Greek islands, forget it. Tourism money and remote workers destroyed those budgets years ago. But there are still places, warm places, walkable places, places where $1,600 doesn't just survive, it actually gives you a real life. I'm ranking 10 of them today, from barely doable to the one place where $1,600 makes you feel genuinely wealthy. Most people get the top 3 completely wrong. Let's fix that. Number 10, Montenegro. Okay, so Montenegro, let's start here because this country gets thrown around in retirement circles a lot, and honestly, it deserves to be on the list, but with a serious asterisk attached to it. Here's the mistake people make. They hear Balkan coast, affordable, beautiful scenery, and they immediately start Googling apartments in Kotor or Budva. And look, I get it. Kotor is one of the most visually stunning places in all of Europe. Medieval walls, mountains dropping straight into a bay, that color of water that doesn't look real. You see one photo and your brain goes, yes, that's where I'm retiring. But here's what happens when you actually try to live there on a fixed income. Kotor and Budva have been discovered. Like really discovered. European tourists, yacht money, Instagram travelers, they found it. And when that kind of attention hits a small coastal town, prices follow. Rent in Kotor's old town can now run you $800, $900, even over $1,000 a month for something halfway decent. You add groceries, utilities, the occasional meal out, and suddenly your $1,600 is gone before the month is over. So does Montenegro make the list? Yes, but only if you're willing to go inland. Places like Podgorica, the capital, which most tourists skip entirely, or smaller towns further from the coast where locals actually live. Out there, a one-bedroom apartment might cost you $350 to $450 a month. Food is cheap, life is genuinely slow and quiet in a way that a lot of retirees actually love once they get past the but it's not scenic enough feeling. The real cost, if you do it right, somewhere between $1,300 and $1,700 a month. Tight, doable. But you have zero margin for error. Verdict, barely passes. Beautiful country, real budget pressure, unless you go inland and stay there. Number 9, Croatia. Now Croatia, this one I want to approach differently because Croatia is a country people either love or feel completely burned by. And the reason comes down to one thing nobody warns you about before you move there. Croatia joined the EU in 2013. And the moment that happened, a clock started ticking on affordability. EU membership brings stability, yes. It brings easier travel, better infrastructure, more international investment. But, you know what else it brings? Prices that slowly start creeping toward Western European levels, and then tourism hit. Croatia became one of the hottest destinations in Europe. Game of Thrones. Filming locations, Dubrovnik going absolutely viral, Split becoming a major cruise ship stop. All of that is great if you're visiting. Genuinely terrible if you're trying to stretch $1,600 across an entire month of actual living. Dubrovnik is basically unlivable on this budget now. Split has gotten expensive. Even some of the smaller coastal towns that used to be secrets have been found. But here's what saves Croatia on this list. Go east. Go inland. Go to Slavonia, the flat agricultural region that most tourists never see and most retirement YouTube channels never mention. Cities like Osijek, smaller towns where a comfortable apartment runs $300 to $400 a month, where a full sit-down meal costs you $6 or $7, where you're living inside the European Union with all the stability that comes with it, at prices that feel like Eastern Europe from 10 years ago. Real monthly cost, if you do it right, $1,400 to $1,800. The lifestyle is genuinely good, the budget is tight but workable. Verdict, Croatia rewards the people willing to explore past the postcard version of it. Number 8, Greece. Let me tell you the most common Greece retirement mistake I see, and it's almost painfully predictable. Someone watches a documentary, or they see a photo, blue dome churches, white buildings, the Aegean stretching out forever, and they decide Santorini or Mykonos or one of the other islands that exist almost entirely as a tourism product at this point. And I'm not exaggerating when I say those islands will eat your budget alive. In peak season, basic groceries cost more because everything gets shipped in. Rent is inflated because landlords know tourists and short-term renters will pay. A dinner out that should cost $12 suddenly costs $35 because of where you're sitting. The whole island economy is built around people who are there for a week and don't care what things cost. But mainland Greece? Completely different story. And this is where Greece actually gets interesting for retirees on a tight budget. Cities like Thessaloniki, which is Greece's second largest city and one of the most underrated in all of Europe, offer real urban life, incredible food culture, history absolutely everywhere you look, and rent that can start as low as $350 or $400 a month for a decent apartment. Smaller coastal towns on the mainland, towns in the Peloponnese, parts of northern Greece that barely get mentioned in any retirement content. These places have a warm Mediterranean weather, they have the food, they have the culture, without the tourism markup that makes the island so brutal on a fixed income. Real cost done right, $1,200 to $1,600 a month. Greece makes the list, but only the version of Greece that tourists don't flood. Verdict: skip the islands. Find the mainland. That's where the real Greece lives, and where your budget survives. Number 7, Spain. Okay, Spain. I need to be careful here, because Spain is one of those countries where saying it's affordable and saying it's not affordable are both completely true at the same time, and it entirely depends on where you land. Let me just be blunt about the cities. Madrid, no. Barcelona, absolutely not. San Sebastian, beautiful, way out of budget. These are world-class cities with world-class price tags. If your Spain retirement plan involves a major city, you need either more money or a reality check. But here's the thing about Spain that makes it genuinely special for retirees who do their homework. Spain is not one place. It's a massive, incredibly diverse country with regions that feel almost nothing like each other. And some of those regions are still genuinely, surprisingly affordable. Valencia. This is the one I tell people about first. Mediterranean coast, incredible food scene. This is where paella actually comes from. Warm weather almost year-round, beautiful architecture, a functional and affordable public healthcare system, and rent that's still reasonable if you go slightly outside the tourist-heavy center. A one-bedroom in a good Valencia neighborhood. You can find it for $500 to $700 a month. Murcia, Andalusia, Seville, Granada, Almeria. These are places with soul, real Spanish culture, warm climate, slower pace of life, and price levels that haven't fully caught up to the hype yet. And here's something most people completely overlook. Spain has a non-lucrative visa specifically built for retirees living on passive income. It's one of the more straightforward long-term visa options in Western Europe. You prove you have steady income, you don't work locally, and Spain essentially lets you stay. That legal pathway alone makes Spain worth serious consideration that a lot of other countries on this list simply can't offer. Real monthly costs in the right regions, $1,300 to $1,600. Comfortable. Not luxurious, but genuinely comfortable. Verdict: Spain works, but only if you let go of the cities everyone talks about and go find the Spain nobody's filming YouTube videos about yet. Number 6, Italy. This might be the most surprising entry on this list for a lot of people, because Italy has a reputation, and that reputation is expensive. And if we're talking Milan, correct. Florence in peak season, yes. Brutal. Rome, don't even think about it on this budget unless you're living very far from anything interesting. But southern Italy is a completely different country. I mean that almost literally. Calabria, the very toe of the boot, is one of the most overlooked places in Western Europe for affordable retirement. Small towns, stunning coastline on both the Tyrrhenian and Ionian seas, food that is arguably even better than what you'd get in the tourist-heavy north, and prices that will genuinely shock you coming from anywhere in America. A one-bedroom apartment in a Calabrian town, $300, $350, sometimes less. A full lunch at a local restaurant, not a tourist trap, an actual local restaurant, might cost you $7 or $8 including wine. Sicily, Puglia. These regions have been getting more attention recently, but they're still nowhere near the price levels of northern Italy. And the quality of life, the warmth, both literally from the climate and from the culture, the food, the pace of life, and was extraordinary. Italy actually has a program specifically designed to attract foreign retirees to its depopulating southern towns. Some offer flat tax deals, some have offered symbolic housing for €1 to get people to move in and revitalize communities. The country is practically asking you to come. Real monthly cost in the south, $1,300 to $1,600. Includes a life that feels genuinely rich. Verdict: stop thinking Italy. Start thinking southern Italy. Completely different equation. Number 5, Portugal. Here's a sentence that probably sounds wrong, but is completely true. Portugal got expensive and also didn't. Lisbon got expensive. Porto got expensive. The Algarve, the famous southern coast that every retiree magazine has been writing about for a decade, has been discovered so thoroughly that it's starting to price out the people it used to attract. But Portugal is not Lisbon. And it's not the Algarve. Go to the interior. The Alentejo region, rolling plains, cork forests, medieval hilltop towns, some of the best wine in the country coming out of vineyards that have been there for centuries. Towns like Évora, Portalegre, Beja. Real Portuguese life happening at a pace that feels genuinely restorative. Slow mornings, cheap coffee, neighbors who actually know your name, smaller coastal towns that haven't made it into the glossy magazines yet, parts of the Silver Coast north of Lisbon, areas of the Alentejo coast that have beaches just as beautiful as the Algarve with none of the infrastructure and none of the prices. And the weather along that stretch? Mild winters, warm summers, almost no humidity. Your body will thank you for it. And let's talk about the people for a second, because this matters more than most retirement content admits. Portuguese people are genuinely warm toward foreigners in a way that isn't performative. It's not a tourism smile. Expats who've settled in smaller Portuguese towns consistently say the locals welcomed them in, invited them to festivals, helped them navigate bureaucracy. That human side of relocating somewhere new, Portugal makes it easier than almost anywhere else on this list. Portugal also has one of the most accessible long-term visa structures in Europe for retirees on passive income. The country genuinely wants you there. Real monthly cost in the right areas, $1,000 to $1,400. This is the best value you're going to find in Western Europe. Full stop. Verdict: the headlines killed the dream of Portugal, but only the touristy parts of it. The real Portugal is still there and still deeply affordable. Number 4, Cyprus. Let me ask you something. Have you ever seen Cyprus on one of these lists before? Probably not, and that's almost the entire point. Cyprus sits in the eastern Mediterranean, warmer than mainland Europe, sunnier than almost anywhere else on the continent, with over 300 days of sunshine a year. It's a European Union member. It uses the euro. The legal system is based on British common law. And English, actual fluent English, is spoken widely enough that you could legitimately retire there without speaking a single word of Greek and never feel truly lost. For Americans specifically, that last point is worth pausing on. The language barrier is real in a lot of these countries. Learning basic phrases helps, but if you're in your 60s or 70s and you're thinking about healthcare, about navigating bureaucracy, about making friends, English being genuinely functional changes the stress level of that transition dramatically. Cyprus also has an established expat community without being overrun by one. The island has its own culture, its own food, its own rhythm. It doesn't feel like a tourist resort that people happen to live in. It feels like an actual place. Real monthly cost, $1,200 to $1,600. Not the cheapest on this list, but the ease of transition and the quality of life make it punch well above its price point. Verdict: if the idea of navigating a completely foreign language in a completely foreign system sounds exhausting, Cyprus might be the answer you weren't looking for. Number 3, Albania. Alright, we're in the top 3 now, and this is where the list gets genuinely interesting. Albania. I know what just happened in your head. Because it happens every time Albania comes up in these conversations. There's a hesitation, really? A vague sense that maybe this is a joke or a desperation pick. It's neither. Let me tell you what Albania actually is in 2025. It's a country with a Mediterranean coastline that rivals anything in Croatia or Greece. We're talking turquoise water, dramatic cliffs, beaches that look photoshopped, at prices that feel like a different decade. The country has been developing fast, infrastructure is improving, tourism is growing, but hasn't exploded the way it has in Croatia or Montenegro yet. Saranda, right on the Ionian coast, looks directly across at the Greek island of Corfu. Literally, you can see it from the shore, and you're paying a fraction of what you'd pay on that island. And here's something that genuinely surprised me when I dug into this. Albania has been quietly building out its expat infrastructure, new cafes, co-working spaces, international restaurants, better roads connecting coastal towns to the interior. It's not a rough frontier anymore. It's a country in the middle of a real transformation, and right now, before the prices catch up to the development, is arguably the best possible time to be there on a fixed income. A one-bedroom apartment in Saranda, or in the capital Tirana, $250 to $400 a month. A full meal at a local restaurant, real food, real portions, $4 to $7. Monthly groceries for one person, $100 to $150. The whole lifestyle, including occasional indulgences, dining out regularly, getting around, you can run it all for $700 to $1,200 a month. Albania is not in the EU, which means visa rules are different and worth researching properly before you commit. But for retirees who want the Mediterranean dream at a price that actually makes sense, this is as close to that as you're going to get anywhere in Europe right now. Verdict: the cheapest coastline in Europe. If the budget is the priority and you have some flexibility and a sense of adventure, Albania is not a compromise. It's a discovery. Number 2, Bulgaria. 2 countries left, and both of them are going to challenge something you probably believe. Bulgaria first. Bulgaria is the cheapest country in the European Union. Not by a little, by a significant margin, and it has been consistently for years. That fact alone should be getting more attention in retirement conversations than it does. But it's not just cheap, that's the part people miss when they dismiss Eastern Europe without really looking at it. Sofia, the capital, is a proper European city. Walkable, cultured, with a real cafe scene, good restaurants, museums, green parks, a metro system. Plovdiv, Bulgaria's second city, is one of the oldest continuously inhabited cities in the world, with an old town that is genuinely stunning and a growing art scene that's been drawing attention from across Europe. And Bulgaria has mountains, real mountains. The Rhodopes, the Piran Range, Vitosha, sitting right behind Sofia. If you want 4 seasons, clean air, hiking, a pace of life that slows everything down, it's there. Healthcare is functional and dramatically cheaper than anything you'd pay in America. The cost of living is so low that even small social security checks go far. Real monthly cost, $900 to $1,400, EU membership, Schengen access, real infrastructure, real culture. Verdict: Bulgaria is what happens when you stop letting the word Eastern do your thinking for you. It's an EU country with a cost of living that makes everything else on this list look expensive. Number 1, Turkey. Here it is, and I want to address the hesitation immediately, Alwa, because there will be hesitation. Turkey is not in the EU. There have been political tensions. The lira has had inflation issues. You've heard things. And here's what I want to say to all of that. For a retiree living on dollars or euros, Turkish inflation actually works in your favor. When the lira weakens against the dollar, which it has been doing, your purchasing power goes up. The things that cost Turkish people more in their own currency cost you, the dollar earner, proportionally less. Let me paint you a picture of what $1,600 a month actually looks like in Turkey. A fully furnished apartment in Antalya, one of the most beautiful Mediterranean cities in the world, warm year-round, beaches, mountains right behind the city, Roman ruins in the middle of the downtown, $300 to $500 a month. A full sit-down dinner at a good local restaurant, not a tourist strip, an actual place where locals eat, $6 to $10, including drinks. Private healthcare that is genuinely high quality at a price that seems like a typo compared to American costs. Taxis, transportation, day trips, almost absurdly cheap. And it's not just Antalya, Fethiye, Alanya, Bodrum, for those with a bigger budget. Istanbul if you want a world-class city, though that's gotten pricier. The Turkish coast is one of the most naturally beautiful stretches of geography on the planet. Warm water, dramatic landscapes, ancient history everywhere you turn. Real monthly cost, $800 to $1,300. And that's living well. eating out regularly, getting around, occasional travel. At $1,600 a month in Turkey, you're not scraping by. You're not stressing. You're living in a way that would cost you $4,000, maybe $5,000 a month to replicate in the United States. Verdict: Turkey is the answer for retirees who want maximum life for minimum spend. The concerns are real but manageable. The value is almost unmatched anywhere in the world right now. So here's what I actually want you to take from this. Europe is not unaffordable. The version of Europe that's unaffordable is real, but it's not the whole picture. It's the postcard version, the Instagram version, the version that gets written about in magazines that are sold to people who vacation, not people who live. The real picture is this: same continent, completely different outcomes depending on one decision, where exactly you land. You can drain your savings in Barcelona, or eat well every night in Bulgaria. You can stress about rent in Rome, or have money left over at the end of every month in Turkey. You can spend your retirement chasing an idea of Europe, or you can actually live in it. The difference between those two outcomes isn't income. It's not luck. It's just information. And now you have it. If you want to know about the countries where you can actually get a second passport or long-term residency on Social Security income alone, that video is on screen right now. Go watch it. It'll change how you're thinking about this.